In this video, we will discuss more on-page SEO factors. We're going to start with site structure. You want to make your site easy for people and search engine spiders to navigate. Users should be able to navigate to all your pages starting at the home page. It should be very simple for them to get to all the pages on your site, or at least find all the content as easy as possible. That means everything from your navigation for your categories, for your blog post, for your articles, for your products. It should be able to be accessed from the homepage in an easy laid out format that's easy on the eyes. If people can do that, the search engines can do that, because you want to make sure that the search engines are finding all your content possible. Utilize text-based links within your content. You don't want to have flash links, and those are kind of an older thing, but you always want to have text-based links, meaning links that are based on text. Image links work okay, but you also want to make sure that there are text links as well, because that's the easiest way for the search engines to find your content. Sites built in WordPress typically offer good structure out of the box. That's one of the reasons I recommend you use them. Avoid flash navigation and pages generated within iframes. And you'll know if your site's in an iframe. That means if somebody clicks on a link and the top of the page or the bottom of it doesn't really change at all, like it doesn't go to a new window, but the content itself changes. That's one of the worst things you can do. The search engines cannot spider a website built within iframes. Some web designers, they may try and push you in that direction. They may try and make you think, oh, this is a way that the content will load smoothly and quickly and easily, and it looks good, and it may look good to do that. But at the end of the day, it's horrible for search engine optimization, because they do not view those as individual pages. They look at your site as one page of content, and they can't necessarily index that content in there. So you could have the best website with all the content in the world, and if it's stuck within an iframe or you're using flash navigation so people can't really find it, it is not going to be efficient. Now, there are certain applications where I guess this could work well, but not if your ultimate goal is to get search engine traffic and on-page SEO and get traffic, which is why you're going through this course. So avoid that at all possible. Image links are okay to use. Text links, again, are still the best, though, for getting spidered. Use a navigational sitemap for your website visitors. Add a XML sitemap to ensure your content gets indexed properly, especially if you're using WordPress. You could use a plugin like the WordPress XML plugin. Do a Google search for site:/yoursite.com. This works if you're looking up the title tags like we've already mentioned previously, and also for your site structure if you're trying to get an idea as to like how the search engines are finding your sites. Are the search engines indexing all your pages of content or just some of them? And you want to keep that in mind. This will tell you how many pages Google has found. Let's say they find 54 pages and your site has 150 pages, and of those 150 pages, almost all of those pages of content are things that you want to have indexed. That would tell you right there that, hey, I need to fix up how my site is being seen by the search engines. I need to fix my site structure. I need to improve upon that. And so there's a site search you could do, site:/yoursite.com. Again, if you aren't seeing most of your pages, then you need to improve your site structure. Static versus dynamic links. A static URL is one that does not change. It does not have URL parameters typically tied in with it, meaning it's more of a solid link. It can typically look something like this: yourdomain.com/golf-training-aids.htm. That's what a static link is. It's much simpler on the human eyes, much easier for people to look and understand. This can lead to a higher click-through rate from the search engine results as well, because people feel comfortable with it. The search engines may bold it within the results of the search engine, and what you'll find is that the keyword shows up there. Avoids problems of search engines indexing a single page multiple times, and that sometimes can happen if you are utilizing dynamic links. With static links, the search engine robots can get caught in a loop, and that's something, or with the dynamic links, excuse me, they can get caught in a loop. A dynamic URL is one that can change and has parameters tied to it. And so those parameters could be, it might have a question mark, number 5, number 4, it might have different parameters that show up to different people. It typically is found within database driven websites. Sites like WordPress are database driven, but you can set permalinks to really clean it up and give each page a solid static URL that is produced and shown to the search engines as well as to the people also. Example dynamic link would be yourdomain.com/article bin answer question mark language equals en and answer equals 7 and sid equals 578, and there's a session ID tied into it. What'll happen is sometimes these session IDs, if your URL structure looks like this on your e-commerce site, on a WordPress site, which it shouldn't, or on any other website. WordPress sites are usually pretty good about this, but on another type of website, then you need to do something to improve it. Because if you're seeing session IDs, what that means is that the search engines may come across their spider robots and they may view that as one page, and then they may come around to your site 2 weeks later or a day later, and they're going to do another index of it. And when the search engine goes out there and does that search, what happens is they might have the same result 5 times, and that's going to cause duplicate content issues from being indexed within the various search engine databases. Watch out for duplicate indexing of your content if you are using dynamic URLs. Avoid using things like session IDs. And so these are, again, things. This is not a technical how to get rid of these, how to reprogram your site. These are things that you need to be armed with so you can talk to your webmasters and say, hey, I don't want session IDs in here, and here's why. Or you need to improve this. You need to fix this. And you could find articles and resources. Now you know about session IDs, so you can show them the harms of them and help steer them in the right direction. Be careful when you're rewriting your URLs. You want to be very careful. If you do a wholesale change and you decide to go from dynamic links to static links, you do want to be very careful because you want to make sure that your links still rewrite properly, meaning that you do a proper what's called a 301 redirect to the right pages. And the reason you want to do that properly is because if you've spent all this time and you've got these pages indexed, but you want to move them to static or a better looking URL structure, you want to make sure that they are redirected okay, because you want the search engines to know that whenever that particular link comes up, they go to this page, and that's going to help you in the search engines results overall because you've already spent the time getting indexed and showing up. The search engines like Google, they can spider dynamic URLs, and they are getting better at that. Some dynamic content links can cause a spider to get into a loop, and again, we already mentioned that. That could be a problem though, where they just keep going back and forth, and then they can't spider out and find your other pieces of content. So they'll index the same page multiple times instead of actually getting out of that loop and then going around and finding the other pages on your site. And that's why you could run into a problem where you have maybe 150 pages of content or 150 products or whatever the case might be, and only 50 of them are showing up. Maybe only a third of them are showing up. That could be caused from a dynamic link issue. It makes it difficult to index the rest of your site if you do get caught in that loop. You could also use an XML sitemap to help ensure all your content gets crawled, just like we just talked about on the last slide. Always think about making these URLs and this part user friendly so that they will want to share it. Now we're going to talk about URL structure. URL structure is important to a solid SEO plan. You want to choose a consistent URL format for all your marketing efforts. And when we talk about that, we're talking about http://www.yourdomain.com, or you're going to go without the www, so http://yourdomain.com. You want to be consistent, with how you're linking to it. Believe it or not, and Google is getting better, but there's people that will argue both ways, and especially in the past, it was a big issue where these URLs were not the same in Google's eyes. So that means if you had a link from www.yourdomain and a link to your domain, they were viewed separately. So you want to be consistent with whatever kind of link building you're doing, and we'll talk about link building as this training goes along. But what you want to do is make sure you're staying consistent with the same format. This will also create potential duplicate content issues. So you need to be very careful and make sure you focus on it. Try to use simple URLs which tell users and search engines what the page is about. Include your target keyword in the URL if it makes sense. That'll actually show up in the Google indexing. Don't stuff keywords in there if it doesn't make sense. Keep the URL small. Think of your users and the search engines, like how's it going to display to them. Use permalinks in WordPress or custom coding to have really quality, clean looking URLs. Don't change your URLs on an established website if you can help it. If you have a website that's been around for 10 years, 8 years, 5 years, 4 years, whatever the case is, and you get a lot of traffic and it does well in the search engines, this could be one of the last things you look at. You would want to look at many other factors first. And I want to caution you of that so that people aren't going in, changing their URL structure, all of a sudden finding out that their traffic and rankings are gone. So be very careful and cautious before you do a wholesale URL structure change, and you may want to even consult with somebody on your case by case basis. Without knowing the situation, I can't tell you in this training like, hey, you should change your URLs, but it's something to be that I wanted to advise you on so you understand what you could and what your options are for improving that. Examples of quality URL structures would be like yourdomain.com/cure golf slice .html, lower golf score.html, golf 6.html, like if there's a number for your articles. Those are good ideas of clean URLs. Some more on-page SEO methods include XML sitemaps. An XML sitemap is a document that helps Google and other search engines better understand your website while crawling it. It tells the search engines what page you want indexed in their search results, what pages you want to have show up. XML stands for Extensible Markup Language. It keeps the search engines up to date on your fresh content. Here's some XML sitemap tips. Don't use session IDs in your sitemap links from dynamic links. So if you have dynamic link structure and you are going to incorporate XML sitemaps, it's kind of like an RSS feed for simple syndication. It's kind of one other way that Google can spider and find all your pages. And within WordPress, there's a tool called the XML sitemap plugin, which is definitely advisable that you use if you have a WordPress based website. But what you want to do is you want to not use session IDs. So be very careful there. Let your webmaster know that. Be consistent with your link syntax so that everything is similar. So are you using .html at the end? Depending on how you do that, are you using www or are you using just yourdomain.com? So notice the same exact link there, yourdomain.com/articles/golf training aids, or yourdomain.com without the www in front of that. So be consistent with the same link syntax. That's what that means. So if you are creating a XML sitemap, be consistent. Make sure all your links start with www or they don't start with it. Just pick one and go with it. I'm not going to say one's better than the other, but just pick one and go with it. I'd go with www myself, but that's up to you. Break up large sitemaps of over 50,000 pages to prevent issues. If you have a very large website and you're going through this training, then that would be an idea there. Most people, it's not anything you have to worry about at this point. Create a sitemap index file to submit to search engines if you have a large website. Understand Google's Webmaster Guidelines. That's really important. Google search Google Webmaster Guidelines to come across their URL, and they will actually help you upload your sitemap. You could create it by hand using a notepad text editor. It's not the ideal method though because it can take a lot of time. I would recommend using third-party tools to create your XML sitemap. You could Google search the phrase XML sitemap generator to find one that would suit you best. WordPress also has a Google, you could Google search XML sitemaps generator as well, or they call it actually the Google XML sitemaps generator, and you could find that within the WordPress plugins directory. And if you are going to Google search XML sitemap generator, you can find some tools that will actually spider your website and put it into the format just like if you did it by hand. And so that is the ideal method because doing it by hand is kind of a painful process that could lead to errors as well. Google also recommends third-party tools as well. You could actually go to this link on their website to come across their sitemap link, and I'll pull this link up here for you. But these are some recommended tools. It's found within your Google Webmaster Tools area where they talk about additional ideas. But you could just go to code.google.com/P and you see the whole link up there. You could actually pause this video and go through that link if you would like, or you could click on it in the PDF later on. But what you see here are some recommended XML tools that Google recommends. These are web sitemap generators that Google does recommend that maybe you could consider using and leveraging. Steps to submit your XML sitemap to Google. First thing you want to do is sign into your Webmaster Tools account with your Google account. So you want to go to google.com/webmasters/tools. On the Webmaster Tools homepage, click the site for which you want to manage sitemaps. You'll have multiple sites in there. On the left-hand menu, click Crawl to expand the Crawl menu, and then click Sitemaps from the Crawl menu list. And in the list of sitemaps, click the sitemap you want to examine to open the sitemap details page. From this page, you can view errors, indexing statistics, and more. So you can see an idea. This is on the left-hand side. If I'm logged into Google Webmaster Tools, you can see in my picture there. Click on Crawl. That will actually expand that menu. And then click on Sitemaps. And that's going to take you to the place where you submit your sitemap that you created using the third-party tools. So at this point, we're going to stop this video and we're going to cover more on-page SEO factors in the next video.